Colin Crandall here, your MMA professor. Welcome to MMA from London to LA. We are down one man. Gentleman Chris Allen not able to make it as he promoted his great regional fight organization over there outside of London. There was a lot of fish and chips eaten, I think, and a lot of great fists thrown and grappling techniques displayed on display for the great Londoners over there and people around the world to watch, follow up on that, and you will never be disappointed as he is the, as I say, England's most respected fight promoter. But we do have the brilliant Callum Sanderson. He's got all the wrestling skills of Cale Sanderson and all the broadcasting skills of the greatest sports broadcasters in history. Welcome to, thank you. We're glad to see you, Callum. How are you doing, my friend?
I know. Glad to see you too, man. We got to give you an introduction as well. The MMA professor, one of the pioneers of this genre, the one and only Colin Crandall as well.
Thank you, Callum. I appreciate it, mate. So we have a great show for you guys. We're going to go over, recap we recorded this a couple days earlier, so let's just say when you'll be watching this, it will be about 2 days or 3 days after the great event that was UFC 291 in the state of Utah, up there at elevation, a bit harder to breathe there, and so fortunately I'm not there. I'm having a hard enough time breathing here down near sea level in California. And I know same for Callum, so we're both battling a bit of allergies, exhaustion, and stuff, but we're still going to rock it out. So let's do it. This was a great fight Saturday night with the UFC 291, as well as one of the most anticipated boxing matches in many years, the welterweight championship for all the belts, all the titles online, with Terrence Crawford having just the one title and Errol Spence having 3 other titles. It was going to be the winner would be crowned the first unified welterweight champion, holding all the belts in many years. Excuse me, and Terrence Crawford had held that distinction at lightweight, and then had also been a champion at super lightweight and now at welterweight. I put out picks on Twitter Spaces the night before, and I went 6-1 in my picks from Twitter Spaces. When I put out the picks officially on Twitter in print, I forgot and left off Roman Kopylov, but I did go 5-1 in the picks that I put down in print, and nearly perfect as I had Jan Blachowicz, and there is some argument that he may have won that fight. It was quite close, so I would have actually been a perfect 6-0 in print and a perfect 7-0 from the Twitter Spaces had they given it to Jan Blachowicz. I kind of leaned toward that he did win it, but we'll come back to that. Nevertheless, shall we go with the MMA first and then hit the Terrence Crawford and then do the next week, or do you want to start out with Crawford, Callum?
Let's start with Terrence.
Let's do it. So you guys may know I've been a boxing historian. I am a boxing historian, but there's a bit of a gap in my coverage. I didn't spend a lot of time watching boxing between 2008 till about 2019 or 2020. But I've since gone back to watch a fair amount of boxing over the last 3.5, 4 years, and then I am a historian for boxing all the way from 1892 to 2007 or 8, and I'm aware of what happened during the years. I didn't watch much, but I just didn't watch much. Nevertheless, I was familiar with these two guys. Were both brilliant fighters, undefeated. Terrence Crawford, 39-0 at 35 years old, and Errol Spence, 28-0 at 33 years old. My pick was Terrence Crawford. Part of it is that I've seen a few of his fights, and he just looked brilliant. And I also watched a couple of Spence's fights, and I was at one. I was at the Errol Spence fight against Sean Porter, and I felt it was a very good fight. And I felt that he barely edged Porter. It was maybe Well, 8
I'd say
rounds
the
to 4.
knockdown won him the fight effectively, didn't it? In that fight?
Yeah, yes. But and Terrence beat Sean handily. Although Sean did state that he went into the Crawford fight without the best mindset and so on and so forth. But nevertheless, I picked Terrence Crawford, and I felt it was I was pretty darn confident in that bet and that pick, and I put that out there. However, I did feel it would be pretty close, and I felt that it may even be uh, a decision. However, when someone proposed to me over 10.5 rounds, I didn't say I was that confident with that. I did say it's possible, but I said I have a feeling if one of them gets the advantage clearly, then they may just stop the other one. So it ended in the 9th, and so I didn't have enough confidence to say go ahead and bet confidently in under 10.5, but I did say I cautioned any any over 10.5 bets, because I think one of them, if they get the advantage, will take that and run with it. And they did. Terrence Crawford was absolutely brilliant. He's an amazing fighter. He just has so much confidence. Something about watching him walk around. He just looks like a tremendous athlete. They both look in great shape, but Crawford looked absolutely shredded. So I don't know, Spence. I mean, Spence is a charismatic guy. This easygoing guy from Texas. So you had a Southwesterner and the Texan against the Midwesterner, the Nebraskan Crawford. I'm a Midwesterner myself from Michigan, and I don't know what it is, but I just got the feeling that Crawford was more confident and as he should have been. But man, he just looked like a machine out there. The way he was so relaxed and his stance was so strong, and you just couldn't hurt him. It's literally like he was made out of steel. And just punches and stuff just ricocheted off his arms and his chin, and without doing much damage. And eventually, he started really lighting up Errol Spence and just beating the crap out of him. To Spence's credit, he never gave up. He kept going for it, and even though he got dropped a few times in the final sequence, he was getting his head beaten in and would not go down. So really, really tough guy. But wow, this was a tremendously impressive performance by Errol Spence. Sorry, not by Errol Spence, by Terrence Crawford. By Bud Crawford, my man. And that scary dude, really scary guy. The only guy that people think may have a chance against him is Jaron Boots Ennis, and Ennis called for that fight. Now, a lot of people that I know are saying that maybe Boots should get another year of experience before that. But damn, the only thing in anyone's favor that's trying to possibly dethrone Bud is that Bud is 35 years old, not far from 36. So somewhere in the next 2 years, 3 years, he could lose a step. It's a lighter weight class at 147, and not too many guys go that deep into their 30s or 40s. Bud could be the first, though. Health and nutrition, there's more knowledge of that in medicine, and he's a guy that doesn't take much punishment and a very sharp guy. So he might be the one, but he probably is pound for pound now, although the other boxer, Inoue, I forget Inoue's name. Yeah, looked brilliant
against Furguson. Well. He was fantastic.
Yeah. I had a great bit of dad humor when someone posted. I asked people if anyone doubted that Bud Crawford was the pound for pound fighter today, and someone put, could also be Inoue, and then I said something like, well, in a way, I agree with that, and in a way, I don't. Anyway, Callum Sanderson, what's your thought on that, mate? Watching the great Americans duke it out in England, I'm sure you had a very delicious order of fish and chips in front of you. Probably not, maybe, but
yeah, it's too late at night for me to get fish and chips at that time. I'll be honest. So, Crawford is my favorite current boxer. And I feel as though I've been championing Crawford for years now. And when he moved up to 47, everyone was like, he's going to be too small for the weight. He's brilliant box, but he's going to be too small for the weight. And I was like, skills pay the bills. And it's a jump up, but it's not such a jump where it's like it's unattainable for him to go and dominate. And going into the fight, I always thought it'd be a close fight, but I had Crawford winning it. And I said to a friend yesterday, I said, don't be surprised if Crawford stops him. And he's like, no chance. You don't stop Spence. And I was like, no, I hear you, but this Crawford's he's different. He's just a different athlete. He's a different animal. I gave the first round to Crawford, but I think that round you could debate which way it went. Literally, the second round started and Crawford had figured him out. And it was scary how quickly Crawford figured out someone as brilliant as Spence. And I think the one downside of him beating Spence so easily is that people are now going to make excuses saying that Spence was weight drained. He's not been the same since his horrific car accident, etc. It almost is unfortunate he beat him so easily, because if he didn't beat him as easily, people would give him more credit. But now it's almost gone the other way, where people are saying, oh, is it because Spence isn't as good as we thought he was? No, Spence is as good as we thought he was. Spence is as good as we thought he was, but Terence Bud Crawford is just better than we all thought he was. It was a masterclass in boxing. And let's not forget, he was fighting in Southpaw, which is not even his natural stance. He's normally, well, he can fight off both, but he's traditionally an orthodox boxer. But he switched stances and he figured out how to take away Spence's jab, which is what Spence uses to set up a lot of his attacks. His jab, with him being a right-hander, his jab went from being just a shot that sets things up to a power shot. Every time he threw the jab and it landed, it threw Spence's head back, and it busted up his nose. The left counters and the left uppercuts and selection of punches. I genuinely don't know if there's a man under 154 pounds that beats Crawford in a boxing ring. And look, Boots is phenomenal as well. Like, he's got incredible punching power, great accuracy. I just think it's too soon for him. But there is no one else for Bud to beat now. There's no point him fighting Pacquiao unless he just wants a massive payday. He washes this version of Pacquiao. Floyd's not going to come out of retirement to fight him. He's making too much money doing exhibition fights. This was the fight. There's talk of it going to a rematch at 154. I'll be honest. I believe Crawford beats Spence at 154. Maybe he has a slightly tougher time, but I still think he beats him at 54. Crawford is that guy, and I'm so happy he's getting his flowers. But I do think people need to give Spence his flowers. Spence didn't have to take this fight. Spence had 3 of the belts. Didn't have to take this fight. Spence is a phenomenal fighter. Incredible heart. And maybe apart from Boots and Crawford, Spence beats everyone else in that division, in my opinion. So I don't want people to start bad-mouthing Spence and dumping on Spence. He's been classy throughout the build-up, classy in defeat, as has Crawford in victory. I just want both of these fighters to get their flowers, because not often do you see the best fight the best in boxing. These two made that fight happen. Spence went out of his way to make the fight happen. Crawford left his ex-promoter to make this fight happen. They made the fight happen. They put on a spectacle. Crawford was the better man. I just want both men to get their flowers and both men to get the accolades they deserve. But for me, Bud Crawford is the best current fighter or current boxer in the world right now.
Absolutely. Very well stated, my friend. Couldn't have said it better myself, or not even as good. So I appreciate that great insight from you, Callum. And so, yeah, a great boxing card. A lot of the undercard are not the highest, most well-known people, but there was a couple of good fighters. I forget the other guy's name. One guy on the co-main was on there. Very good, yeah. Nevertheless, yeah, definitely respect to Errol Spence and Bud Crawford. Just is absolutely a killer legend. One of the best welterweights out there. I actually did a poll on Twitter, and let's take a look. Or for my friends and viewers in Scotland, Twitter. Says, let's just say, which is now X. X. I don't know if we're not going
Yeah,
to be Twitter anymore.
yeah.
Or
I don't know what's going on with
don't
Twitter.
know, but I guess all of a sudden Elon punches the button, and all of a sudden we got the X there instead of the
We
Tweety
got
Bird.
X, yeah.
But then on other pages you still have the Tweety Bird, so who knows? Anyway, I put this poll out, and it's still going to go for 4 more days. I said, who's the best welterweight boxing champ over the past 50 years? And the choices were Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, Floyd Mayweather, and Terrence Crawford. As of right now, we've got 54 votes. Hope to get a lot more over the next 4 days. And as of right now, Floyd Mayweather leads with 46.3%. Second is Sugar Ray Leonard with 29.6%. Third is Terrence Crawford at 22.2%. And last is Roberto Duran at 1.9%. That surprised me a bit, but nevertheless, his better. He was more known as a lightweight, although he fought in like 6 different weight classes.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, Colin. I'm gonna retweet that. I don't even know how I'd vote though.
Yeah, they're all.
I probably would go Floyd for longevity and resume. But I mean, all 4 of those guys are just absolute legends. They're all Hall of Famers. They're all like pioneers and the best in class. So
without a doubt, and this is just the last 50 years. If I had gone the last 100 years, we could have put Sugar Ray Robinson.
Yeah.
And then also probably several more of the great welterweights from previous decades.
Yeah.
Like I think Mickey Walker, Harry Greb, some really amazing fighters there that were in the welterweight division. Nevertheless, that is definitely going to be interesting to see how that ends up. But anyway, let's go through the UFC. Miranda Maverick, who I've interviewed many times. I interviewed her, I think, prior to her first UFC fight, and we've always been high on her. She hit on a little bit of a tough spell. It's interesting how things can break that can give a fighter a very different record. She's 12-5, but she beat Macy Barber. That was a ridiculous decision. And she should have beat Yasmin Jasuda Vicious unless if her eye hadn't been, affected where she couldn't see anything. Now I know there's not 100% evidence that was the case, but she said it was, and they did have a clash of heads. So had it been that they didn't rip her off out of the Macy Barber decision, and if she fought full strength and beat Jasmine, then instead of 12-5, she'd be 14-3, which is a good bit more impressive. Nevertheless, when I broke it down, some people were picking the Brazilian, Priscilla Cachoeira, and I said, Miranda's going to go in there and beat the brakes off her. I said, this is a fight that they can't leave any question about. And because Miranda Maverick is a strong Midwest farm girl, very sweet demeanor, very physically strong individual, but she cannot mess around with this kind of mid, as they say in the vernacular now, or mid-level fighter. You can't, or else you're not getting anywhere. Yeah. And she went in there like that was her attitude. Like, I'm not playing with this girl. I'm going to beat this girl clearly. And she did. And so I was quite happy to see that Miranda Maverick looking good in that fight. Anything to add?
No, she's bounced back really well. And good victory. Be interesting to see how she gets matched up going forward.
Yes, indeed. But I believe in her. She's still only 26, not quite reached
still
her prime
young.
yet.
Yeah,
without a doubt. And then we had, where are we? We had Uros Medic against Matthew Semmelsberger. I like the fact that his last name is spelled Medic. They pronounce it Medic, but his nickname is the Doctor, right? So he's a doctor, and his last name looks like Medic, right? So I posted before the fight that I said one way or the other. I hate to say it, but I think one of these fighters may need a medic after it. And it turns out that it took some convincing. Then afterward, I posted that while it took some convincing, Uros finally made it clear that Matthew Semmelsberger was going to be the one needing the medic. The doctor did, and that was a great fight. Though Semmelsberger is such a tough guy. I knew that would be a very tough fight. I didn't make a pick on that fight. I knew it would be very big. but the King's MMA product came back in there with a spinning back fist. I thought it was like a spinning back elbow.
Yeah, almost in between, wasn't it?
Yeah. And so impressive win by the King's MMA fighter. I think, I'm sure you agree.
Yeah, I do. Both game fighters. Again, you look at that fight and you're like, yeah, that's going to be a really good fight. Had it have been a fight night, that would have definitely been the main card of a fight night. But obviously, it's a pay-per-view, so it's in the early prelims. But yeah, good performance and a very good finish.
Without a doubt, indeed. Jake Matthews, speaking as you did a few minutes ago of getting your flowers, and Crawford did. Jake Matthews did get his flowers, and I pointed out in a post earlier in the week that in this Saturday's UFC 291, it looks like Jake Matthews will indeed get his flowers. But are these exactly the kind of flowers that he wanted? Perhaps not. But nevertheless, he did get the man called Darius flowers, and Darius dared to be great in that fight, coming in short notice and looking actually quite impressive. I had a feeling he would. I've heard good things about Mr. Flowers, but Jake Matthews coming in there a lot more experience, eventually did get the rear naked choke in the second. The Aussie Jake Matthews indeed getting the flowers in more ways than one.
Yeah, I was really impressed by both fights, to be honest. I mean, Darius took the fight on short notice, and at the weigh-ins, he looked pretty small, but he did really bulk up overnight. He really rehydrated well, and he really went after it. He was a man on the mission. But what I was really impressed by Jake Matthews is that he didn't decide to get into a slugfest. He started picking his shots. He relaxed into the fight. It was almost the opposite of what happened with Della Maddalena versus his opponent, where he almost started fighting his opponent's fight, whereas Matthews just stayed composed and he fought his fight, started picking him off with the front kicks to the body. One obviously ventured quite low. Well, not that low, just almost the after kick effect was that his heel hit him in his groin area. But I think he almost took the fight out of him, and it's to be expected in a short notice fight. I think Darius deserves another shot in the UFC because I think he put on a great fight. But Jake Matthews goes forward, and again another prospect at welterweight who's looking really good.
Absolutely, Jake gets his flowers, but Darius will remain in the hunt to get his own flowers in one day, especially with the name Flowers. He's essentially got them every fight he attends. So all respect to both men. Darius Flowers, a very tough guy, and I'd like to see him. I'm sure he'll get another chance, as indeed he should. Roman Kopylov, the man that looks like a big Russian version of Chase Hooper. Chase was there and put out that live video saying, "I wanted to show that indeed, I am not the same person as the Roman Kopylov. We're here in the same room." So that people had to, be sure about that. But yeah, I picked Kopylov convincingly in that fight, although I knew that Hibero could give him a shot, but he's just a big, tough guy. And that was a nice kick. It was funny. It was a similar but different kick to the one that Justin Geathje won in the use of the main event, where Geathje just threw that kick, high kick as high as he could, and caught it. Lower jaw and neck, right, which is brilliant. Whereas Kopylov, the taller fighter, kind of just didn't have to really reach and put all the energy to get it super high, but just kind of threw up a kind of mid-range round kick with some snap on it, and just smack right in the face. And,
brilliant technique.
Yeah, it really was. Technique. Yep, and that was it for Mr. Hibero. And so, yeah, Kopylov is a tough guy, and in the middleweight division, I think he's serious contender at 11-2 now. He did get thrown to the wolves in his first two UFC fights, losing to Karl Roberson, who 4 years ago was on a really good streak.
Yeah, he was.
And then losing to Albert Duraev, who was also doing better than. Is still a tough guy.
Yeah.
And then, but his three stoppages in a row in the third round and then two in the second round over Alessio Di Chirico, Puna Soriano, and Claudio Hibero, all within the last 11 months.
Not bad at all.
Yeah. So he's back on the warpath, and I think he's a serious contender out of Russia.
Yeah. Yeah, again, the technique to finish the fight was clean as anything. The stereotype of Russian fighters is, oh, they're just going to go in there and wrestle and ground and pound. No, there's evolution there, and there's variety there, and he showed that. And again, at middleweight's a very open division at the moment. A couple of wins can get you a title fight, as we've seen. It'll be interesting to see how he continues to climb the ladder and how he does against better opposition going forward.
Absolutely. Speaking of evolution, which group sang that song that went something like "Give me something, a revolution"?
I have no idea.
Oh, you have no idea. The
No.
Beatles. Shame on you.
Oh,
You're too young.
I'm going to be in
Young,
trouble
that's
after
all.
people see that.
That's okay. Your father would have known. Your father and mother
Yeah,
would have known,
yeah.
guaranteed. But you're young.
Yeah,
The
definitely.
Beatles were long out of action when you were born.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, John Lennon was killed before you were born.
Yeah.
Yep. So I forgive you on that. Plus, I didn't
Okay.
sing it with I didn't sound like them that much there, or Paul McCartney, and I didn't have an English accent. Although, why is it many Americans wonder why can people in the UK sing and sound identical to Americans, where we're not really hearing your British accent?
Yeah,
Have you noticed that?
Yeah, it's weird. It's almost, I think it's because the British culture was sort of mirrored on the American culture. So a lot of the phrasing and the way they enunciate during singing is similar.
Because it really is, isn't it?
Yeah,
You can't differentiate an American from a Brit if they're singing. Yeah.
There's only a handful. Like Ed Sheeran, you can differentiate, but a lot of others you can't.
Yeah, absolutely true. All right, continuing on as we will, and that's going to be right here. Next up is CJ Vergara, Vinicius Salvador. I didn't watch that fight. I had to take a break. I had something to do. I'm not that familiar with them. CJ Vergara won. Maybe he's the illegitimate son of Sofia Vergara, maybe. And if so, then he gets his flowers, from his mom, money-wise, and he gets his what the hell am I saying? Anyway, I don't know. What's your thought? Did you see that? Or
I actually didn't see this fight either.
Yeah, that was the break. That was the break fight. And CJ is 129-pound catch weight, so they didn't even make weight, or unless it was agreed. Fighting on a Pete Spratt American Muay Thai. Pete Spratt was an early UFC fighter. He was actually, I think Pete Spratt was among a group of only half a dozen black fighters that fought in the UFC in the 90s.
Okay.
I remember it was him and Eve Edwards and Dean Thomas, and I think there was like one or two other fighters. So he was one of the first black fighters to fight in the UFC, and is a very talented guy and a good coach now. So I interviewed Pete a couple years ago. I had to give him a call back. But yeah, his rep CJ Vergara looked really good out of Pete Spratt American Muay Thai. A lot of respect to Pete Spratt. And then the loss going to Vinicius Salvador and Vinicius Fenomeno, another fighter with that nickname, Fenomeno. Out of Brazil, and he is now 14-6. Anyway, continuing on, we have Gabriel Bonfim and Trevin Giles. I'll have you start out with this one.
Yeah, I mean, Bonfim doing what he does. The guy doesn't lose. It's weird because his brother usually fights on the same card as him, but his brother didn't this time. A lot of people made out saying, I wonder how that'll affect him. Will it affect him? Clearly not. This guy is potentially something to be reckoned with. I mean, again, another undefeated welterweight. We've got Ian Gary, we've got Shavkat, you've got this guy. I mean, Hamzat in between welterweight and middleweight. I'm telling you, I know lightweight is seen as the sort of premier division at the moment, or the main talk of the UFC. Welterweights are coming, man. It just seems like it's the era of the welterweights, and if we start matching some of these fighters up and they start having great fights, we could be in for some real amazing sequences. And again, Bonfim went out there, did his thing, and I think he has to get a top 15 opponent now.
Yeah, I think so.
We need to start testing him and seeing if he's ready for that jump up, and if he is, then the likes of him, Ian Gary, Shavkat, it's going to be really fun.
I agree 100%. And speaking of 15, he is 15-0 with 15 stoppages.
Crazy.
12 submissions and 3 knockouts, and a vast majority of them are in the first round, although he does have several that went to the second round. He really does. Not a single one, though. Yes, one. A single fight did go to the third round, and he stopped his opponent there. Curious, as a jiu-jitsu guy myself, let me see how many submissions that are similar. Guillotine choke, shoulder choke, arm triangle choke, rear naked choke, rear naked choke, rear naked choke, arm triangle choke, guillotine choke, rear naked choke, and triangle choke. So
he's choking you out.
Yeah.
It's just which position he does it in, but he's choking you out.
Yes, that's what exactly. All chokes. So
he doesn't really care about manipulating joints. He just cares about getting that neck.
Yep. So you got to keep the man Maratina, Gabriel Bonfim, away from your neck at all costs. That's the secret.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, but definitely great addition to the welterweight division. He's looking brilliant with 2 first-round submissions in his first 2 UFC fights. Next up, we had Kevin Holland and Michael Chiesa. So I this is something I'm very proud to say that I was all over. I know Team Holland. I've interviewed Kevin several times. I'm a friend of his manager, Justin Adams.
I love Kevin Holland.
Yeah, Kevin is great. People, I don't think, saw what I saw because the odds were quite close in this fight. My statement in my Twitter spaces, and I record each and every one of them from Friday night, said, this is Kevin Holland all the way. I said, this is one of the better bets I've seen. And I said, you have one man who's several years younger, whose main focus is fighting. He's had his ups and downs. Mostly the downs were at middleweight, or at the catchweight with Hamzat. But at welterweight, he's looked quite good. As Stephen Thompson did beat him, but Thompson is an unorthodox fighter.
Plus, did he break his hand in that fight?
He did. He indeed did. But nevertheless, I said, Chiesa hasn't looked that great lately. Chiesa's been focusing a lot on doing his commentary work. And I said, not only that, but the matchup. Kevin is longer, taller, although not by a lot, but by a bit. And one thing I think people didn't think is that Kevin is a way better striker than Chiesa. They're both jiu-jitsu black belts. But Chiesa is a better wrestler. But I think a lot of people were not giving credit. They weren't realizing he's a Travis Lutter black belt.
Yeah.
And Travis Lutter was a very good competitor in the UFC for several years. And so I said, I don't see that Chiesa has anything for Michael. I don't see that Michael Chiesa has anything for Kevin Holland in this fight. And a lot of people are like, no, Chiesa's going to win. He'll probably go in there and maybe he'll sub him. And I'll say, no, he's not going. He's not going to. He's good. This is Kevin Holland's fight, and I think I was proven to be quite right, wasn't I?
Yeah, I think you were. I feel sorry for Chiesa because he was starting to get on a little run, and then he just had a bad time of injuries, etc., and a bit of bad luck. And he's been out of the octagon for a good little while now. Coming back against someone as active as Kevin Holland is going to be a really tough ask. And as you said, the attributes were lining towards Kevin Holland: younger, in my opinion, faster, better striker. Jiu-jitsu just as good. The only advantage Chiesa had was his wrestling, but you would never have described Chiesa as being an explosive wrestler. He's a guy that likes to back you up and get you on the fence and then try and grind you from there. He's not like a Hamzat who will take you down anywhere in the octagon. So I was leaning towards Holland with this one. It almost felt as though Holland learned a lot from that Hamzat fight because he approached the fight how Hamzat approached the fight against him. He just went 100 miles an hour from the start and he overwhelmed Chiesa, and then the finish was excellent. Great dash choke, and he did his thing, man. Chiesa kind of took off the gloves. I don't know if he'll retire off the back of this. I still think he'll do one more fight and then go from there. This was always a tough fight. Maybe he'll take a step down and take another fight, but Chiesa's always game. He's a brilliant pundit as well. He's definitely got a future there. But Kevin Holland is the man at the moment, and again, another welterweight that's really exciting considering his size, reach, and length.
Yeah, yes, indeed. And then you see the statement he made afterward was quite interesting. I won't quote him exactly, but he said that being that there's no BMF title anymore at 170, haven't been being about to be awarded to the winner of Geathje and Poirier. He said, I'll get back up to 185. Now I don't know that that's what's going to happen next. I know that he's his own man. Yeah, me too. He's his own man, but I know he does listen to his team as well. I think he looks quite good at welterweight, and he is 30 years old, so it's not like he's 25 years old or 23, where you can just force your body to do whatever it wants with a bit more ease. He's not old, but you want to maybe not do too much of that in your 30s, putting that undue stress on yourself. So I would rather not see him go back up to 85, but I think with his renewed skills, maybe he could do something. He's certainly got the height, he's got the length, and I'll tell you this. He's been doing MMA. I think he's been a pro MMA fighter for 7 years or so. So since he was his early 20s. In fact, I can answer my own question here by clicking on this, can't I? Let me see. He's been a pro MMA fighter since.
Well, so to cut you, he's going to be now in the top 15 because Chiesa was ranked 12, so he's going to be at least 12 now.
Yeah, exactly. So 8 years. 8 years as a pro MMA fighter. And a lot of fights in those 8 years, 34 fights. So, being that he started out when he was 22 years old, he may not be that guy that goes to 40. A lot of these guys that go to 40 start out when they're 26, 27. So, but what I'm saying is this. Even if he only goes 5 or 6 more years in this career, I do think at some point, physically, he will probably need to go to 185 because you do have a bit of a weight gain in your late 20s, early 30s, but then you can also have another one as you get past your mid 30s, going toward your late 30s. So if he goes that long, then I think it's inevitable that he'll probably need to go to 185. But he said he likes to eat. It's more of a comfortable thing for him, but there's a lot of big guys there, and my thought is that I'd love to see him do damage in welterweight and possibly get into that top 10 and maybe even further, right? And then perhaps 2 years from now or 3, maybe get to middleweight.
Yeah, I agree.
Excellent. All right, moving on. We have Bobby Green, Tony Furguson. Why don't you start there? That was I had no idea what to call on that. Green was a big favorite. I knew he'd probably win because Furguson has just not been himself for many years, and Bobby's a tough guy, and Bobby really wanted to get back on track. But I don't think anyone knew what would happen there, except for probably Tony would lose. But Tony's such a popular guy. You didn't think he'd lose by submission because I think he did lose by submission against Charles, didn't he? No, he didn't.
No. He went 3 rounds. He should have tapped to Charles. Charles hyperextended his elbow, but it was right at the end of the first round.
That's right. He did lose to Nate Diaz in a guillotine choke, and Nate chokes a lot of people. But other than that, he had not lost to. Yeah, he lost to a guy named Jamie Toney in 2009 by submission. But he's not a guy that normally gets submitted.
Yeah.
And so the king there, Bobby Green, looked quite good, and it is what it is. I don't know how much can be said, but I'd like to hear what you have to say about it.
I'll be honest. For me, so going into the fight, I actually thought Furguson would pull out the win, but I didn't think it'd be pretty. It was a hard fight to watch, and I'm a Bobby Green fan as well, but it's still a hard fight to watch because you remember what Tony Furguson was before that Geathje fight. He was the boogeyman of the division. He was the fight that no one really wanted. And I still maintain before he took that Geathje fight, he still would have given Khabib a tough fight because
I agree.
He was ready made for it and he was in his prime. But it's almost like he wanted to be too much of a company man and he wasn't selfish enough. He needed to take some proper breaks. He should never have done back-to-back weight cuts before that Geathje fight. He really and truly shouldn't have had to have taken the Geathje fight. They should have just rescheduled for the Khabib fight.
Agree.
And from then it's just been bad. Geathje, then it was Oliveira. So you're thinking, right, he's still using it to top guys, and Dariush, where his knee probably was shredded from him not tapping out. Then it was Michael Chandler with one of the KOs of the year.
Yeah.
Then it was Nate by submission. So again, you're still thinking he's losing to top guys. Nate, you probably wouldn't say he was a top guy when he was on his way out, but he's still very popular and still game. And obviously saw what he did to Leon Edwards. Gave Leon Edwards a tough time in his last round.
Yep.
Against Bobby Green, you're thinking if he loses this, if it's a close fight and he loses, there's still some argument that he still got it. If it's a whitewash, then you're looking at it going, now's the time. This was a beating. Like, he took a real beating. He didn't get close to Bobby Green, and Bobby Green's got phenomenal boxing. Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
But everyone knows you can get to Bobby Green if you cut off the angles and he carries his hands low, so you can feint takedowns. I mean, Drew Dober did it perfectly. He stayed in the pocket and then was able to punch with him and then got the knockout. Tony Ferguson looks so slow. It's the slowest I've ever seen him.
Yeah.
And I fear he's one of those people that needs saving from himself. He is never going to retire. He's never going to say enough's enough. Yeah. I don't know if his team have that influence on him. I don't want to see him get cut from the UFC because I think he's been such a company man and such a staple of the 55 division and of UFC as a whole. Something needs to be done though, because I don't want to be looking at Tony Ferguson getting beaten up on a regular basis. He's too good of a fighter, too good of a history to see that happen.
I agree. I think this may be one where Dana steps in and says, "I don't want this anymore, and we're not going to do it anymore." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to see that, and I know when it was the Fertitta brothers and Dana that ran the whole thing, they could give people a desk job or a position. You know, but apparently now, not apparently now they can't because it's not them. Dana, in fact, Fertitta brothers has, I think, very little, if any, interest financially, and then I think Dana probably has very little interest financially either. They were all paid out by the Endeavor Group, and so I don't think they can have these guys do anything. And I don't think Hollywood agents give a rat's ass about anyone, and I'm pretty sure that they don't. So I don't know, but Tony was great, and I hate to see him keep losing. I agree. I just had this thought. What would you think? This is brilliant. This is a thought. An up-and-coming British fighter should use the nickname Fish and Chips. Can you see it? Mike Fish and Chips Stevenson.
It'd be interesting to see the amount of puns that would come out of it, though.
I know, but you got to figure someone's got to do it. Someone's got to do it. Maybe I'll talk to Chris.
Yeah, I was going to say, see if he can get one of his fighters to do it.
Yes. I think because you got to figure, right? People in England would have to cheer for a guy like that. His nickname is Fish and Chips. Yeah, I'm going to make that happen. We're going to try to promote the hell out of him. But anyway, okay, moving on. We have Derek Lewis against Marcos Rogério de Lima. I wanted Derek Lewis. I didn't make him my official pick because I didn't know. I was worried because no one really stops the big Brazilian, save for like 10 years ago. He's got good head movement. He's a big, strong guy. Derek Lewis did what guys have done to him recently, just like you were talking about what Kevin Holland did. He swarmed him, and his after interview was hilarious. He took off his shorts, and then in the stuff he said he's a brilliant guy. Let me see. I quoted him here. Let me see it here. I quoted him, and where is it here? I'm going to pull this up right here. What Derek Lewis said when Joe Rogan said, "Was that your plan, or did you plan on doing exactly that?" And he said, "No." And he said, "Here's it here." He said, "I was just thinking, let me throw some bullshit and see if it landed. If it lands, let me throw some bullshit and see if it lands."
I swear, he's my favorite MMA personality. Like,
he's the best.
He seemed to have a different demeanor this week.
Yes,
and even the the media day, the interview he did for the media day press conference. He just was in such good spirits. Like, he was cracking jokes. He was like, "Yeah, I was ready for you guys today." But I think John Morgan asked the first question that completely broke the ice with him. And it was just a fantastic interview. On the scales, it's the most shredded I've ever seen him look.
Yes.
He looked in phenomenal shape. He said he took it seriously. When he said to everyone in the press room, "Oh, you're going to see me with abs," everyone laughed. And he's like, "You're laughing, but I bet you see me with abs." We saw him with abs.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
crazy. And then he went on putting that display, the post fight. But what really stood out to me is a free agent now.
yeah, yeah. That's weird. I
How
mean,
the hell have the UFC let that happen?
I don't know. Well, it's maybe because they weren't sure. If he lost this one, they would say, "Ah, we were right. We didn't care about that big man."
Mate, but I
But
mean,
but
Derek Lewis, he's always going to bring eyes to the product, though.
he
Surely.
is. They're saying maybe get him over to the PFL for the rematch with Francis.
Oh,
I think he'd be in.
oh.
Yeah, I think he might be in some trouble there. But I think that you never know. I mean, Francis is getting a little
If he
bit older.
takes it seriously, you never know. I mean, he's the only heavyweight I'd say, apart from Pavlovich. Well, maybe Pavlovich and Aspinall, who have the knockout power to really put a little
Yes,
bit of fear into Francis Ngannou. So
yes, and he did that flying knee, which is great. And then
amazing.
it was
I
fantastic.
love that guy, man.
Me
I
too. He's
absolutely
super
love that
cool.
guy.
Great example of
He's
American.
like in my on my bucket list of people to interview one day. Like he's brilliant.
Yes. I had a fun interview with him about 3 years ago at a
Yeah.
UFC event in the press section. And he, I think, showed up. I think it was one of the times where he was the guest. He wasn't fighting on that card. So he just came by and he was in a pretty good mood. So there was, I think, maybe a dozen of us there. And I think, as usual, only like half or less of the reporters were asking questions. And so we had a chance to kind of ask some and then come back around and ask more. So I asked him several questions. I forget what we talked about for the first part, and then it came back to me. And we like to have the fighters. They like to look at us to see so they can give respect, and and a lot of times they don't know where we are when we're speaking. So
Yeah.
I he knew where I was when we were first speaking. And then when I asked my question several minutes later, after other reporters have asked, he was looking around for me, and I said, "Right over here." And he said, "Oh, there you are." He said, "You're using a different voice this time." You sounded, and I'm like, "Oh, sorry about that." I'm using a different voice this time. He goes, "Yeah, a different accent, a different voice this time." And I said, "Then 10 minutes ago, I did. I didn't say that." It was kind of really
He's
funny. Like,
brilliant.
what the hell? I'm using a different voice. I guess the first time I was like, "Well, Derek, what do you think?" The second time I was like, "Well, Derek, what do you think about the?" I didn't realize I was using a completely different voice, but he pointed out that I was. So anyway, he's a great guy. Love him and love to see that victory. So happy for the Black Beast.
Indeed.
Good dude, very good dude. All right, then we get to the co-main and the main. Alex Pereira, Jan Blachowicz. I picked Jan Blachowicz on this one. This is the only losing pick that I made, although I do think that's debatable. I felt that this would either be competitive, but Jan would just be a little bit too much, or that Jan would just run through him with his wrestling. A lot of people felt differently. A lot of people were Alex, easy fight.
Yeah,
Alex,
I said Alex would win. I didn't think it'd be easy, but I thought Alex would win.
Right. So I felt that they both did quite well. I wish Jan would have been more successful with the wrestling. He tried to be, although at some points it seems like he was just comfortable, content just to stand, which I don't know why he was, because this was a guy, but I don't know. I decided not to do a poll this time asking people if they felt it was a bad decision, because I don't always want to be that guy pointing out that I'm feeling there's some bad decision every card. But I think it could have gone either way. My thoughts. What do you think? I thought so. Yeah, I was disappointed though not having picked the winner on that, because I would have had a perfect 6-0 or 7-0, depending on if you're looking at my spaces or my in-print posts.
So I had the first round easily for Blachowicz, the second round easily for Pereira. The third round was all to play for. I don't think either one of them really stamped their authority on the third round. I think they were both a little bit cautious, not to wanting to make a mistake as opposed to going for the win. I had Blachowicz win, but I'm not going to sit there and be like it's a robbery. I admittedly I was doing a watch along, and when the scorecards were starting to be read out and it was becoming a split decision, I said straight away, I was like, they're going to give it to Alex Pereira because it's new blood in the division, and
he's the A side.
Yeah. So I thought that would happen. Again, I don't think that's necessarily malicious. I just think that's maybe human. But I don't think Jan was robbed. I know he's pretty upset about it and saying that he's robbed. I don't think he was robbed. I think he can feel a little bit hard done by that he didn't get the nod. But to say, I mean, the word robbery and robbed, they're thrown about a lot in MMA, and a lot of the times they're not that. They're close fights, and it could go either way. And I think this was one of them. What I'm interested to see though is Pereira. I mean, it's weird because Pereira's, no matter who he stands next to in the world, he seems either the same size as them or bigger. I mean, Tyson Fury is meant to be 6'9". He stood next to Tyson Fury and they look like the same height. He's in there with Blachowicz and he looks bigger than Blachowicz.
Yeah.
And Blachowicz is a natural light heavyweight. So I still think Pereira's probably grown into the division. And Blachowicz is not an easy fight for anyone. I mean, who really gives Blachowicz problems apart from Teixeira? And I think Blachowicz just had an off night that night and Teixeira was bang on form. But Pereira now, he's top 3 in the division now, which really throws the cat amongst the pigeons. And if we are going to get the next fight, which is believed to be Yuri Prohaska and Pereira, take my money, because that is going to be fireworks.
Without a doubt, banger. That's going to be a banger. And I agree. I do feel bad for Jan. I dislike the fact that the judges do seem to always go for the A side fighter in these close decisions. I don't like it. I don't like it at all, because it almost seems like that's what their intention is, and that's what they will do. And I just think that's shit. Or what do you say, bollocks?
Bollocks.
You know, right? What does that bollocks mean? Is something crappy or something?
Yeah.
Don't like it, but it is expected. But I wish it wasn't, because it shouldn't be.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yep. Nevertheless, we get on to the main event where I did pick my man Justin Gaethje.
So did I. I picked him as well.
Yes. So did I. He was going to get his revenge. He was very motivated, and no bad blood between them. A lot of respect. Both great guys.
Similar to Spence Crawford build-up. Very similar. The fight just sold itself. There was no need for the extra like cussing and just making a beef for no reason. Neither man are like that. They go out there, they entertain, and they leave it all in the octagon.
Absolutely. And what I liked is that I was correct in my prediction that the fights would not be on simultaneously. The fight cards were simultaneously. But I predicted by the time the start time that the Crawford fight would be prior to the main event. And it was indeed. It was right about the same time. Yeah, it did. And so I was so happy for Justin. He just is better. When they fought, I said in the Twitter spaces, because a lot of people, I think more people, at least more Americans, were leaning Poirier. And Poirier had more ways to win, because if he on the ground, he was a better grappler, an inferior wrestler, but a better grappler and jiu-jitsu guy. And we've known that's been known to be a little bit of the kryptonite for Justin Gaethje, when someone who's got their jiu-jitsu and grappling and submissions down. But nevertheless, I just said to myself, the difference is in the first fight, which was very close until Dustin got the better of him, was Gaethje 1.0. That was Gaethje complete berserker mode, not conserving his energy, not moving his head even a little bit. And this is Gaethje 2.0. And he's been Gaethje 2.0 for about the last 6 or 7 fights. He fought Dustin 5 years ago, which is a huge difference for 34-year-old fighters. At 29, you could say he was in the center pretty much early prime, and had not made the adjustments. And now at 34, he may be a slight bit past his prime, but not much, and he has all that seasoning and experience and the changes they made. So I was very happy to see that for Justin Gaethje. He's got 2 incredibly solid wins on his hands now, that he was expected to lose. Against Fiziev, he was a substantial underdog, and against Dustin, it was quite close with the odds, but he was underdog, and I'm liking it. He wins the BMF title. Such a nice, genuine guy. He did that backflip off the fence You
Yeah.
know, and you know, he's just an exciting dude, and I've been following him for the longest time. If people know me from MMA Power Hour, I started talking about Geathje when he was in the World Series of Fighting, and I would actually mention his name to UFC fighters when I was interviewing them, when we'd be having a conversation about all the landscape of MMA and, you know, exciting fighters. And interviewed him by video about 4 years ago, and then interviewed him in person uh, about 3 years ago at a media event, and hope to talk to him again soon. Although he's even going to have more people trying to get with him, and
Yeah.
his management doesn't like doing interviews very much, so they don't do them on his behalf, which is unfortunate because I think he's a cool dude. He's a genuine
Yes.
neat guy, and he's like, I think he's like Western European and Mexican, I think, something like that. So
Oh,
it's an interesting combination, and he loves his heritage on both sides.
yeah.
And he's just a really just honest, sincere. He's, you know, I think Geathje can kind of be representative of the United States of America in many good ways. He
Yeah.
believes in respect.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to point out people that are disrespectful,
Yeah.
and that he would want to be more respectful. He is a martial artist, even though his background is wrestling, not traditional karate or kung fu or anything like that. But he's just a respectful, good man, and I think you know, this is kind of someone that I think is a great representation of the United States. Also, though, I want to put that on Derek Lewis as well as a
Dustin.
fun, friendly Dustin. But I mean,
Yeah.
Dustin too. But I wanted to mention, in retrospect, Derek Lewis kind of represents America in the easygoing, funny, with that American humor as well. So I think we had a couple of guys, several guys, representing the United States quite well. But yeah, that's my thoughts about Geathje. Curious to hear yours.
I went into the fight thinking Geathje was going to win because he was hungrier.
Yes.
He had the defeat against Poirier 5 years ago. Again, I don't want this to come across in the wrong way, but Poirier has made his money with Conor, and he's got his other stuff on the side. He's been really unlucky not to pick up the belt. Probably one of the best fighters not to win an undisputed belt in any division in history of UFC. It just seemed as though Geathje was a little bit more hungry. And as you said, working with Trevor Whitman, he just refined his style a lot more. And even the finishing kick, it's crazy because you look at it and it wasn't thrown with like phenomenal technique. He didn't really set it up. And Dustin even blocked the kick. Here's a killer. Dustin blocked the kick. Dustin did nothing wrong, but the kick just managed to have so much power on it that the block, it meant nothing. And then obviously the follow-up hammer fist, the backflip off the cage. Both men were classy in the lead up, classy after the fight. I'm very intrigued to see Geathje versus Makhachev. I think Geathje learned a lot of the Khabib fight. Even Khabib himself said he was 1 or 2 leg kicks away from not being able to finish that fight potentially. If Gaethje's more patient and more calculated against Makhachev, especially with him fighting from the southpaw as well, it could really help. It like he could really chew up his leg, and Makhachev wouldn't have seen or faced anything like that.
Oh yeah.
I'm really intrigued to see, but it could also be Oliveira again. So it could be another rematch, and we've seen him in this rematch how diligent he was and how he was able to change the outcome. Gaethje has renewed himself at lightweight, and he now has to be the next in line for a title shot after we find out who reigns supreme between Makhachev and Oliveira.
Agreed, and I will say either fighter, he will once again be the underdog, most likely in the betting odds. But yeah, I tell you, if I were the Makhachev camp, I would be a little bit concerned because the fight with Volkanovski, which I thought Volk beat Makhachev, although it was close, did kind of, you know, Makhachev took, I think, more punishment in that fight than any of his fights. But still,
he's only fighting once a year, effectively. Or twice at most.
Right, but he was against a smaller man, so he you know, I think Volk wasn't able to hurt him badly But if things go wrong with in a Makhachev versus Geathje fight, Geathje could literally be beating the brakes off him.
Yeah.
Could beat him. I mean, it could get ugly in there. If Makhachev can't get the takedown, Geathje could literally be like, it could look almost like him against Tony Ferguson.
Yeah.
And that would be insane to see one of these very, very tough Dagestani guys just take a huge amount of punishment, but they they have their heart, it won't let them give up. And so, I would worry a little bit about Makhachev if things went wrong, but he's such a good fighter. But yeah, I'd love to see that fight and the Charles rematch. I think Geathje does better in the Charles rematch for sure, and does pretty good with Geathje. So all in all, a really, really great fight card, and maybe they'll do the rubber match. I don't know. I think Dustin's made some good money with the Conor and the Conor fights, and his hot sauce, and he may not need this anymore. Although at 34, he's still pretty young, but he's been going for a long, long time. And, he's actually been in the league longer than Geathje. He's been in the league for 15 years. Dustin Poirier. It's a long time. He was in WEC. He was a pro fighter for 15 years, in the UFC for many years. But we'll see what happens. Great night of fights. Let's go on now, and we'll do a quick rundown of UFC on ESPN 50 in Tennessee. This is going to be Corey Sandhagen and Rob Font. So,
should we just do the main card?
Yeah. Let me see if there's anything that really excites me. Otherwise, let's go. Let's do a couple not main cards really quick, and then go to the main card. I think Billy Quarantillo and Damon Jackson. Billy Q. Yep, that's going to be a really good fight. Damon Jackson was on a 4-fight streak until he lost to Dan Ige, and Billy Q was on. Well, he was on a win-1, lose-1. He had at one point had a 10-fight win streak going outside the UFC, actually with 3 of them in the UFC, and then he's been win-1, lose-1 since then. Both guys really want this. Billy Q is 34. Damon Jackson is 34 years old. That's going to be a banger. I think Billy Q wins that, but I would have to look more into it before I make a call. Should be a good fight, though, don't you think?
Yeah. When is Billy Q in a bad fight?
Right.
I've got to go Billy Q. I don't know as much about Damon Jackson, so I'm maybe being a little biased, but Billy Q, he's brilliant, man. Such a good fight to watch.
He really is. Okay, then we have also to go over really quickly Raoni Barcelos and Kyler Phillips. Raoni Barcelos is a very good fighter out of Brazil, 17-4, getting a bit old for the bantamweight division at 36. But he did just get stopped by Umar Nurmagomedov. Before that, beat Trevin Jones, and then had 2 losses before then. So you know what? I guess I'm looking back on the fact that at one point he was on a 5-fight win streak in the UFC. Not as good lately. Kyler Phillips, the Matrix, I think is coming back after a year or 2 suspension. His last fight was February of last year, and he had won that one, but he had lost a close one to Raulian Paiva. Otherwise, he would have been 5-0 in the UFC. Instead, he's 4-1. Kyler Phillips should win that fight. 28-year-old, much younger, and I think the odds makers for sure probably, not quite 2-1 favorite, but Kyler Phillips should win that fight though. Raoni Barcelos really needs to win though. He's a good fighter, but as it looks, he probably won't get it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go Kyler Phillips on that.
Yep. All right, and then we have. Sorry about that, everybody.
That's right.
Thanks. All right. Ignacio Bahamondes, Ludovic Klein. These are double tough guys. I don't want to spend too much time on that, although that looks like it's in the main card. But Bahamondes is looking good on a 3-fight win streak in the UFC. And his first UFC fight that he lost was just a split decision against a very tough and much more experienced John Makdessi. So he could as well be 4-0 in the UFC. He's got a record of 14-4, which could be 15-3. Only 25 years old, out of Santiago, Chile, and he's 6'1". They show his weight at 160 for some reason, which is strange. Welterweight. Yep. Ludovic Klein is a lightweight. I think this is a lightweight fight. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I wonder. But Bahamondes is 5 inches taller than Klein. And Klein is very tough. He had the draw with Jai Herbert in March and had beaten 2 fighters before then, Devontae Smith and Mason Jones. Had lost to Michael Trezano and Nate Landwehr. Hard to say what happens here. If it's a lightweight, then then Bahamondes, I think, is dropping. Or if it's a welterweight, Ludovic Klein is jumping up, and he'd be a small welterweight. So I would think the favorite here would be Bahamondes, and the odds makers tell the story. And yes, minus 200, minus 190, minus 205. Yeah, it should be a tough fight. Klein is a tough dude out of Slovakia. So you never know what he can do, but I think the bigger man here is Bahamondes. 2 youngsters, though, with Bahamondes at 25 years old and Klein at 28. What do you think, Kel?
Yeah, I think you're right. It depends on the weight, but I think then Bahamondes is the favorite for a reason. I remember Klein fighting Herbert, and it was a tough fight for Herbert, and Herbert's no joke. So I think Klein will bring the fight, but I'm going to go Bahamondes.
Sounds good. My man from Canada, the fellow North American, right up north of the United States here is the bulldozer Tanner Boser. I interviewed him before his battle against Ion Cutelaba at light heavyweight. That was his first time dropping down from heavyweight.
Yeah.
And he was very confident. He knew it was going to be a battle. He was not overconfident, but I think most of us and the odds makers were extremely confident. And he got caught right away by Ion Cutelaba. But once again, he is staying at light heavyweight, and he has got maybe a little bit of an easier spot here against the likes of Kamer, although Kamer is a tough guy. 27 years old. He's 6 foot tall, so Boser will be 2 inches taller. Boser's 31. Kamer is 27, still not at his prime yet. However, Kamer is indeed also coming off of 2 losses and has a record of 1-3 in the UFC. He beat Justin Ledet, who I think is no longer in the promotion. And then he lost to William Knight and Nikolai Negro Moreno by a split decision. That was a really close fight. This is tough. They both really need a win, but I think it's going to be the bigger man, Tanner Boser, getting the win. And the odds makers, I would think, feel the same. Let's take a look here. Yes, indeed. Not quite 2-1. Favorite is Tanner Boser.
Yeah, I'm going to go Tanner Boser as well. I think Kimura, I think he'll probably start the faster fight, but I think once Tanner starts to impose his will and his weight and size, I think he'll grind. I think it'll be a decision win, but I think he'll grind out a win.
After which he'll have some steak and kidney pie. Right? Possibly not, but I had to throw that in. Anyway, oh my goodness. Okay, let's get moving on here. Diego Lopes and Gavin Tucker. Lopes is 21-6 out of Brazil, 28 years old. Did lose to Movsar Eloev in his UFC debut.
I still noticed, and he was brilliant in that fight.
Yes, he did fight very hard against Evloev, who is 17-0. And so this is going to be a decidedly easier spot here. Although Gavin Tucker is a very tough guy. 13-2, the man they called Governor. Which you guys say, didn't they get to name? Let's say Governor. Do they still call people that? How are you doing, Governor?
Yeah, a couple people. People still will use that phrase now and again. Not as often, though.
No, it's a bit of an old-fashioned phrase, right?
Yeah.
What did it mean? Someone who is it just like addressing someone as a gentleman, or like saying
sir? Almost like if it's the governor, you'd say like they're like a boss, like a top guy.
Interesting, but not much said by the younger generation as much as that.
No, not really. No.
British TV, always you were hearing that, but nice. So anyway, this guy's a Canadian, but he's the governor, and he has come off the loss. Has not fought in over 2 years. March of 2021, where he got stopped by Dan Ige in 22 seconds. Prior to that, he had a good record in the UFC. He still does. He's 4-2 in the UFC. He lost to Ricky Glenn 6 years ago, and then Dan Ige, he beat Sung Woo Choi, Justin James, and Billy Quarantillo. 37 years old, though, at 145. That is an older featherweight.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, this is a big ask for the governor here. I think that probably Lopez wins this, but I think this is going to be. It will be a fight, but we'll see. I think they do have Lopez just a slight favorite. Wow, -130, -125 to -138. So you know what? The Canadian's a tough guy. They both need a win, but being 37 years old and not having fought for 2 years and 3 months. Sorry about that. A yawn on the show. I'm sorry. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I would think
I'm
Lopez.
going to go Lopez.
Yeah, I think so. Any additional thoughts on that or not?
No, I think Lopez. I wouldn't be surprised if Lopez got a submission win here. I think he'll put it on Tucker and then get a submission win.
Yep, I think so. Then we have two guys that I've interviewed several times: Dustin the Hanyak Jacoby, 6'4", 205 pounds, 35 years old, out of Factory X. Fought several years as a kickboxer. Really good fighter. Man, things just changed for my man Dustin. He was on a 7-fight streak of not losing. The reason I say of not losing is he did have a draw with UN Kutalaba during that time. But other than that, actually overall a 9-fight streak without a loss, and 7 were in the UFC. Then he lost 2 in a row. He lost a split decision to Khalil Roundtree. No shame in that, and that could have gone his way. But then he did lose somewhat convincingly to Azamat Murzakanov. Murzakanov is a beast. In fact, I think he got touched up, maybe you could say, more than just somewhat convincingly. And the man from Russia is 13-0. That guy's got like steel in his fists, and they're giving Volkan Oezdemir to him, and that's in September. But I feel bad for Volkan. Anyway, Dustin is wanting to get back on the winning track, still with a good UFC record of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 wins, 2 losses, and a draw, but 2 losses in a row as of recently, and he's 35 years old. Kennedy Nzechukwu, 31 years old. He's taller even than Dustin at 6'5", so an inch
he's a
height
big
advantage.
guy.
Yeah, big guy, 4 years younger, 12-3, and he has kind of done not the opposite, but he started out the UFC with his career 4 years ago with a loss to Paul Craig. He did then win 3 fights in a row against Darko Stosic, Carlos Olberg in that super exciting fight 2 years ago. Daniel Marcus, and then did lose to Da Woon Young, and then a split decision, close loss to Nikolai Negomareno, and then has stopped his last 3 opponents, Carl Robertson, Yuan Kutalaba, and Devin Clark. I mean, this is going to be a good battle. Kennedy should be favored the way things have been going lately for him. But I think this is going to be a good battle. I'm going to say they should have Kennedy as 2-1. Wow. They don't. They only have Kennedy as like 1.5 to 1. Not even that. Anywhere from
I'd have it wider than that, especially after Kennedy's last victory as well.
Yeah, I think Kennedy should be a bit bigger favorite, a bit larger favorite. I think Kennedy is a fair bet, but Dustin's tough, and Dustin knows he needs to win. Dustin's never lost 3 fights in a row in his whole career, and I would argue that other than this time around, he had never lost 2 fights in a row. Let me take a look. No, he had lost 2 fights in a row on a couple occasions, but he's never lost 3 fights in a row ever, and he needs this as the older fighter, so he's going to fight hard. I think this is going to be a competitive fight. I think on paper, though, Kennedy should win, and I would think he will win, and I think there's value on Kennedy, but this is going to be a battle.
I've got Kennedy to win this. I think he'll be the bigger, stronger man. I think after his last victory as well, I think the confidence will be oozing. And I think he's starting to find himself now. I think he's really starting to hone in and understand how his physique and how he's able to dictate a tempo of a fight, how he's able to get to fighters. And I think he's really starting to put it together now. And I think he'll continue his run.
Yeah, I think the concern is that the more polished and experienced striker is Dustin. But Dustin's also 4 years older and coming off a couple of hard losses. if I was the Kennedy Nzechukwu team, I would be looking at doing some wrestling because if he stands the whole time, Dustin could outpoint him because he's just a much more experienced technical kickboxer. But Kennedy has so much strength, you know. But yeah, it's gonna be a good fight. But I think Kennedy wins this. LSU's starting to really kick in here. So we only have two left. Jessica Andrade against Tatiana Suarez, and this is going to be at strawweight. So Tatiana did come back for her first fight in 4 years and fight at flyweight and did beat Montana De La Rosa. I worry about her getting back to strawweight now at 32 years old. The last time she fought at strawweight, she was 28 years old. And I know she's a wrestler. My friends that are wrestlers tell me they can do it. They just can torture their body. They can get every bit of fluids and water out of their body. And you know, so I'm going to assume that, although I think it's probably not going to be one of her easier cuts by a long shot. Several inches taller than Andrade. Andrade just has not been looking great lately, although the fact that they made her take back-to-back fights with the second one on short notice after losing to Aaron Blanchfield, and then a couple months later against Xiaonan Yan. Although she really wants to get back on the winning track. It's really an old-school throwback fight here of striker versus grappler, and I think that Tatiana Suarez should win this fight. She may not come out unscathed. She might not win this super easily, but then she might. But she should win. Now let's look at the odds because there's not going to be.
I think the odds are going to be wide.
Let's see. Yeah, about what I thought. Minus 330, minus 350. You know, no. Even worse. Nope, even worse. That's the plus. Minus 435 to minus 500.
Yeah, I thought that'd be wide.
Yeah, plus 330, 340 on Andrade. I don't know. There's no money to be made on Suarez, but yet there is risk. I might, as you guys in England say, leave off this fighter. I think that this match, I would leave off this matchup, but I do think that Suarez wins this because she's a really serious threat at strawweight.
Yeah, I agree. I think Suarez, that time she took out, she missed the sport, and the fact that she's back now and taking fights so quickly as well. I think this is her time to make that run at the belt and really make a mark in this division that everyone thought she would make before the injuries. I think she makes relatively short work of Jessica Andrade. I don't think the weight cut's a good idea for her at this stage in her career. And going up against someone like Suarez. But again, if there was a BMF for women, I think Jessica Andrade would probably be the rightful owner of that belt, to be honest, considering she's fought in 3 divisions and he's an absolute machine and tough as nails. So, yeah, I'm going to go Tatiana Suarez here, though.
Makes sense. And you made a good point. I didn't even point out the weight cut again for Andrade going back to both of these women are going to be cutting a lot of weight. So, it's going to be interesting to see. All right, main event of the evening. I will let you start this one out. The Sandman, Corey Sandhagen against Rob Font.
Not the one we thought we were going to get. Obviously, Umar Nurmagomedov pulled out of the fight. But Rob Font is a great stepping opponent. And look, it's a completely different style change for Sandhagen.
Hold that thought for 1 second. Sorry. This fight is at 140-pound catch weight.
Catch weight. Yeah.
Go ahead. Continue. Sorry.
Which, again, I think could be very helpful for Rob Font as well, having not to cut the extra 5 pounds. And Rob Font looked excellent against Yanez, who most people thought was going to run through Rob Font. Sandhagen's a different problem, though. And although what helps Rob Font here is that Sandhagen wasn't preparing for a strike, he's preparing for a wrestler. I think Rob Font gives Sandhagen maybe a little bit of trouble for a round. I think Sandhagen figures him out after that, and then I think Sandhagen pulls away and mixes in his takedowns with his offensive footwork and striking ability. I think Sandhagen is really in a flow at the moment, and he's one-track minded, tunnel vision towards that belt, and I don't know if anyone's going to stop him.
Yeah, I agree. Font once upon a time fought at 125, although at 5'8", he's not a short guy.
Yeah.
Sandhagen being 3 inches taller at 5'11". Sandhagen's 31 years old, 16-4 on a 2-fight win streak, and a very good UFC record. Sandhagen's record has been in the league for 5 years. Sandhagen's UFC record is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5-1, 6-1, 7-1, 7-2, 7-3, 8-3, 9-3 in the UFC, which is very impressive. Rob Font's not going to be quite that good, but he has just as many fights. Rob Font is 2-1, 3-1, 4-1, 4-2, 5-2, 5-3, 6-3, 7-3, 8-3, 9-3, 9-4, 9-5, 10-5 in the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
So both have very good UFC records. Font is 36 years old, though. That's a problem. That's at the bantamweight division.
It's a bad combination. That is.
Yes, indeed. Whereas the Sandman is only 31. So yeah, I mean, this if Font could win this, perhaps he could get a bigger payday before he starts descending because of age.
Yeah.
So this is really the time Font really needs this. But if he's lost a step since his last fight, then he certainly wouldn't beat Sandhagen. And his last fight was in April, so it's conceivable but doubtful. But even if he hasn't lost a step, Sandhagen should win this fight. I'm going to say Sandhagen should be minus 260 here. Let me see. Wow. Anywhere from minus 265 to minus 300 for Corey Sandhagen.
Yeah, sounds about right.
I think that's correct. I think the Sandman cometh here, and this he will win. But I tell you what, I will not doubt that Rob Font will have his moments in this fight.
Yeah, I think he'll start the fight brightly, but I think Sandhagen will take over and get I think he'll get a decision victory.
Yeah. Maybe if we got to get nicknames here, one of us should be the Sandman. We'll have to think about that. I don't know. Maybe one of them. Maybe that's what we got to do. We give our nickname. Maybe I should be Fish and Chips. Your MMA fight professor here, Colin Fish and Chips Crandall, to all my British fans.
So, all right. So, what should we give? In fact, you know what? From now until next week, we've all got to think of a nickname, and that'll be our nickname going forward. We've got to put in the title of our names and everything.
Yes, indeed. Because I found the spot there where it comes out. That's what we'll do.
Yeah.
But I still think we've got to get a British fighter because it would be perfect, wouldn't it? I mean, Fish and Chips is British. British, food that you guys love. And so, it would be, how could someone not have used that? I mean, it's perfect.
I know, it's right there.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to Chris Allen and see one of his gentlemen there. How would he approach it? Imagine this. Imagine you're a manager, and not all of these younger fighters have any managers, but who should I, no, let's act it out. Pretend I'm the, they don't have managers, most of these amateur guys. So I call you up. You're a guy who comes on manager's fights. Listen, mate, this is Chris Allen, your promoter here. How's it going? Oh, good, Chris. What do you need, mate? Listen, mate, I was thinking that I really like your prospects fighting in MMA. You look quite good as an amateur. I was thinking one thing you need is a catchy nickname. So I thought about how about we use Fish and Chips? What do you think a fighter would say?
It depends how good the relationship is between Chris and the fighter. If it's not very good, then he probably won't get a response he likes.
It'd be a funny phone call to receive, wouldn't it? You hear
it would be hilarious.
You're wondering what unfinished business they had or whatever fight. And it turns out he's going to say, "Can we use Fish and Chips as your nickname for the next fight?" I'm going to ask Chris. He might do that. He should pick one of the fighters he likes the best.
He should. Yeah, not a fighter that he doesn't get on with.
No, that wouldn't be good. Anyway, Callum Sanderson, this was great. Going over everything. The next week's fight's going to be great. You want to give any final thoughts about anything? You have the floor, as my friend James Lynch likes to say.
Just a great night of fights, both MMA and boxing. Pleasure to watch those fights, and can't wait to see how the story continues to unfold in MMA as well. So,
yes. And as they used to say in ABC's Wide World of Sports, on this show, you'll find that we are spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sports entertainment and competition, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. Dun, 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 dun. There we go. That was an old American program. You should look at that on YouTube. Yes, growing up as a kid, that was the choices to watch, the Saturday sports on television. The telly, as you mates would say.
The telly.
Anyway, well, Callum, great working with you as always.
Always a pleasure, Colin.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate it. Forgive me for all the allergies, and I know we battled through this time.
I'm with you. I know the feeling.
Yes, indeed. But we will be on next week. And ladies and gentlemen watching, look out for guests. I think we are going to pack the late summer and then the rest of the year with some guests on this show. And it'll be great fun. And we will have gentleman Chris Allen back. But I will say that for Lord Callum Samuelson, this is Lord Colin Crandall, your fight professor. And it was great chatting with all of you. Appreciate all of you watching us, and we'll see you soon. Peace.
Take care.